Okay. Now, Fury is going to go creep. He wouldn't be doing this if he was aware of his opponent's expansion, because he could very easily go attack it at this point, but there is that little thing called the Fog of War, and it can be a bitch. So, while he's got mana on his destroyers, he's not actually able to pick a fight with the human player right now, simply because he's got so many damn dragonhawks. So he's going to go creep. Partly just as a way of spending the mana that is on his destroyers instead of letting it, decay, because that extra damage is kind of precious. And also just, finding something to do since he can't pick a fight. Realizing, I think, that destroyers alone aren't going to cut it, he has started building fiends. This is very good strategic play, and it saves the hell out of his expansion right here. Just one fiend and the Dreadlord is enough to run those Dragonhawks off, as long as they don't have any kind of hero support, because otherwise they're going to start getting picked off one by one, and as more fiends show up, there's going to be more problems. So here's a very good thing. If you find yourself, if you're going for mass destroyers as undead, which is, you can gripe all you want about cookie cutter, but it's an effective strategy against human. However, if you find yourself getting really owned in the air department, either by like dragonhawk riders or gyrocopters in very large numbers, switch to fiends. You don't even have to get rid of all your destroyers, because they work pretty well in conjunction with each other. You're about to see a little bit of that in this here creepjack. Once again, anytime you can get a creepjack on a human player, you want to do it. So just always be looking out for that. Items play a pretty big role in this battle. There is a Wand of the Wind kind of keeping the Mountain King under control, and also on the human player's side, destroyers combined with a Lich and a Dreadlord, who I believe is using Carrion Swarm, are going to be doing a whole lot of splash damage to those Dragonhawk riders. However, as an undead player, you don't want to rely on this, because smart human opponents like Rain are going to bring along healing scrolls. And I believe he's already popped both of them off, but he actually had 2 healing scrolls ready to go at the beginning of this battle. Other than that, that one is actually, that battle, I kind of missed some of it, because there was so much going on at once. But there was some slick microing going on in there with Fury using a potion of invisibility from the shop to save his Death Knight. Rain was trying to do some similar stuff with his Mountain King, but the guy just didn't quite make it. So I guess just as a general word of advice, don't be afraid to be clever when you're micromanaging. Like, whenever you get into a fight with your opponent, don't just kind of hit attack and let your opponents do their things. Just, like, think of yourself, just play sharp. Like, look for nice little opportunities to, like, if you're by a shop, anytime that you can use the shop, use the shop. Anytime that you can grab a wounded unit and move it back, move it back. You don't necessarily have to be a pro to be able to do this stuff. Sometimes it's really just a matter of sheer focus and really like putting everything you have into microing that battle. Fury at this point, he's creeping. He's still blissfully unaware of his opponent's second expansion. It's going to help him if he can get, high levels on his heroes and all that good stuff, but I think you can actually kind of learn from his mistake here that you want to at least get some shades out, which actually he has now. I think, yeah, let's take a look at his point of view. He's scouting around the map with a shade. Really, if you can get these out, if you can get shades going like fairly early at tier 2, I know it's hard in terms of lumber, but really the sooner the better. if at any point, up until this time, Fury had realized his opponent had an expansion in the corner there that he has basically just been mining out of for free without any kind of defense whatsoever. I take that back, he's got a few towers now. But he would have a much easier time. As it is, he's really going to have to work his ass off just to keep in this game. At any rate, what's going on, he saw the human player creeping with the shade, and once again is going for a creep jack. So, if you can remember this, when you were playing against a human opponent, if you want to put a loop of my voice just saying creep jack, creep jack, creep jack to keep you remembering to do that, I think that alone will help your game quite a bit, because creep jacks are just so critical against a human player. And just for whatever matter of fate, the shade goes off in a different direction, and Fury still does not know about that third expansion, or that second expansion. Fortunately, as a general rule, an undead player can survive with the human player having one more like gold mine than you do. The exception to that is when a human player fast expands at the beginning of the game. You can't afford to go with your one mine against a human player that is fast expanded, because they're going to spend a long time in the early game banking while they're in no upkeep. So basically, they're just going to end up with a freaking ton of money. And they're either going to get like 100 supply army and crush you, or you're gonna fight head to head for a while, and then the human player is going to be able to recover very quickly after units are lost, and you won't, because you're going to basically be maxing out your gold usage, whereas the human player will have a really big stash of money from all that early game kind of free mining. Okay, so let's talk about the makeup of Fury's army. What he is using is destroyers and fiends versus dragonhawks, and we're gonna get to see some nice examples of this, both working and not working. Let's focus on this battle that's going on right here. There's kind of some chasing going on. What's going to end up happening, see right here, the destroyers are getting focused down. Fury is pretty badly outnumbered. If I had to guess, the only reason that he is in this battle at all, as opposed to just town portaling out immediately, see the Lich just went down, is still because he doesn't realize that Rain's got that extra expansion. You can do your best, but you can't always tell at a glance how big your opponent's army is. One of the things you can do though is you get a feel for how many gold mines he's got, how long the game's been going on. You start to get a feel for how big your opponent's force ought to be and whether or not you can take it on. I think Fury just got thrown off here because he thinks his opponent is operating off of 2 mines when he's actually operating off of 3. And I believe that is why he went ahead and tried to fight that battle. And for all intents and purposes, he really wasn't ready. He really had a smaller army. There's going to be another skirmish coming up right here, and the outcome is going to be a little different. So let's watch what happens. First thing, of course, is you want to start eating those water elementals. The mana on your destroyers is going to give you a lot of extra power. Also, you notice there are a lot more fiends in the battle this time around. That's really the big difference between right now and last time. What happens is this prevents the dragonhawk riders from being able to focus down the destroyers anywhere near as effectively. So once you have like a lot of fiends, like I think you've got 6 there, that's going to be a lot of his units that are webbed. So if you see a destroyer that's taking a lot of damage and you run it back, normally his dragonhawks would kind of be able to chase it down and kill it, at least initially. However, if a lot of the dragonhawks are webbed, you basically end up splitting his fire between your destroyers. They're not all able to shoot the same destroyer at the same time because they're locked into one specific place. Another thing Fury did that is kind of nice is he saw the spot that where the human player was attempting to expand, and he chased him off of it. So he went ahead and set up his own gold mine there. The extra gold mine obviously is going to help him with the gold, but it also allows him to keep an eye on the human at the same time and see when he's going to try and set up an expansion for himself. Here he has finally found that third base. At this point, I believe he's able to take it down. Obviously, he's going to attack it. I'm not. Let's see. He's gonna. Okay. I apologize for not quite knowing what's going on here. I think he knows that his expansion gold mine only has about 3,000 gold left on it. Whereas, no, actually, yeah. I mean, as Bornhost is saying, if you guys are watching from the observer point of view, they are just trading expansion for expansion. He is claiming that the human player is dead right now. Oh, I know why he didn't town portal to save that expansion. Because basically, it's a simple situation of he's got an expansion. Fury has an expansion that he started. That is nearby, and his army is going to be in position to protect it after it's finished taking out this expansion. So he's going to go ahead and let his old stale expansion die instead of town portaling back, risking his opponent town portaling out and then taking out his new base with just 2 acolytes. Now he starts up an altar of darkness at the expansion. That's a fairly interesting move, and actually one with, I think, a lot of foresight. He knows that from this point on, now that his base his base is mined out and his natural expansion is nearly mined out, and he's probably not going to be able to take that back. He knows at this point that the game is really going to be focusing around this new expansion that he has in the upper right-hand corner. So he's going to go ahead and start plopping his buildings down there instead, as opposed to just building them back at his main. Pretty good idea. It's actually something that's fairly applicable to all races. If you have an expansion that is very important to you, and it's kind of stale and in the later game, it's a pretty good idea to actually start building more of your buildings around that expansion. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the general flow of the game right now. What's happening, if you have your Fog of War off, like I told you to, is that the human player feels like he's got enough of an advantage at this point, and he's going to start tanking the undead player. A well-prepared undead base can hold off tanks pretty well, like something where you've got a couple of Nerubian towers and a few tanks and a few meat wagons and your ghouls ready to go. Things like that, yeah, you can actually hold off tanks. In a game like this, where mostly it's been an air-to-air battle and not something where the undead player was prepared to try and hold off these tanks, those things are going to do a lot of damage. I will note that one thing that's very important when you're dealing with tanks is to have an Orb of Corruption, preferably on your Lich. That's going to allow you to focus down a tank a lot quicker because those things have a lot of armor. They take long enough to die as it is. Really